Hi all and welcome back to the channel, and I hope you're all doing okay. Right, I've got a bit I want to get through tonight, so I'm going to try and keep this as quick as possible, so that it's not a long video. It might be a little bit longer than usual, but I'll do my best, absolute best, to keep it as short as possible. So I want to start off with Lando Norris, because he has had his say on his battle with Max Verstappen's driving habits at the Mexican Grand Prix. Norris said, "I don't think I need to say much. I think it's pretty self-explanatory on what happened. I did everything I've been told to in terms of what the rules are and all of this stuff. Yeah, it just wasn't to be, and of course, he got some penalties for that. I go into a race expecting a tough battle with Max. It's clear that it doesn't matter if he wins or is second. His only job is to beat me in the race. He'll sacrifice himself to do that, like he did today. But I want to have good battles with him, you know, I want to have those tough battles, like I've seen him have plenty of times, but fair ones. It's always going to be on the line, it's always going to be tough with Max. He's never going to make anyone's life easy, especially mine at this point of the year. But I think today was just, it was not fair, clean racing." And to be honest, from Max's point of view, that was quite a messy race for him. But I'll come on to, because I think there's a more important issue there with the 20-second penalty and clearly what's remaining of this season, but I'll come on to that in a bit. Sticking with McLaren, McLaren's team principal Andrea Stella believes there is no reason for Lando Norris to change his driving style after clashing with Max Verstappen in Mexico. Stella said after the race, "Our conversations and internal reviews have always been very clear. Lando, we approve the way you go racing. It's not for you to go out there and try to find justice yourself. You go racing in a fair, sportive way like you do. There needs to be a third party, that is the stewarding, that will say whether some manoeuvres are correct or not. Don't be desperate. You don't have to prove anything. You go racing fair and square. This is what we want from Lando, and this is what Lando wants for himself." And I think Andrea Stella's hit the nail on the head there. I think Lando does have it in him to win this championship. I just think it depends how far Max is going to push things, and with the 4 remaining races again, what the points difference is going to be towards the end of the season. Then I want to move on to Damon Hill, because he believes Max Verstappen is losing respect from other drivers on the grid after his race in Mexico. Hill wrote on X, "More rules just make more loopholes. It's a shame because Max is losing respect. He could change his approach, but I think hell will freeze over before that happens." And I do kind of agree with Damon Hill there that Max isn't going to change anything at the moment. I just can't see it happening. Then I want to move on to George Russell, because he's revealed that one unnamed driver is standing against all his rivals when it comes to altering F1's racing guidelines. Russell, who is the director of Grand Prix Drivers Association, said, "I think the stewards are totally on board with what needs to change. Our view is, I think the biggest discussion is they wanted to wait until 2025 so it's something consistent through this year. I would say 19 out of the 20 drivers said, well, if it's incorrect, make the change today. I'm glad to see those incidents were punished, and I suspect moving forward in Brazil, what we saw today and what we saw last week, you won't be able to get away with." And of course there is always speculation over who that one driver is, until somebody says who it is. We're not going to know. Then I want to move on to Christian Horner, because he's admitted that Red Bull will need to make a difficult decision in terms of Sergio Perez's future with the team. Perez has struggled over the course of this season and could only finish 17th at the Mexican Grand Prix. Speaking after the race, Horner said, "We are working with him as hard as we can to try and support him. We've done everything that we can and will continue to do so in Brazil next weekend. But there comes a point in time that you can only do so much. That scrutiny is always going to be there. There comes a point in time that difficult decisions have to be made. We're now third in the Constructors' Championship. Our determination is to try and get back into a winning position, but it's going to be a tall order over these next 4 races. However, Helmut Marko is already looking at options after Perez's poor performance at the Mexican Grand Prix." And from what I can understand, the billionaire sponsor of Perez has pretty much made his feelings clear to Red Bull on what they should and shouldn't do. So that'll be an interesting one to watch. Sticking with Helmut Marko, he suggested that Max Verstappen may need to take a new power unit in Brazil, which would result in another penalty. Reflecting on the race, Marko said, More alarming is that we couldn't get the tyres going. We didn't even come close to the two front teams. That also has to do with the engine problems. We will have to change one because this one was so slow. Normally we are pretty good at the end of a stint. Here the car collapsed. I'm guessing this was a pretty old engine, which we all know that those power units, the older ones, are down on power anyway. So after his messy race in Mexico and now a penalty at Brazil, which might not be too bad because it's quite a fast flowing track, he may be able to make up quite a few positions. But again, if the car is not underneath him and it's not there and it's not performing to what he's used to, then we could see problems again. Lando could be closing this gap to Max much quicker after this weekend. But again, it's only a few days away, so this is going to be an exciting race, I think. Sticking with helmet Marko briefly, I think this again is mind games on McLaren's part, more so Lando's, but he's recently said, "We are very lucky at Red Bull that Lewis Hamilton isn't driving for McLaren in 2024, because if he was, he would easily win the championship this season in their car." Now, the reason I say it's mind games is because I can't think of any other time that Helmut Marko has heaped any amount of praise like that on Lewis Hamilton in particular. So I think that is definitely mind games. And as I said earlier, with the Constructors and Drivers' Championship, as you can see here, Max is leading the Drivers' Championship with 362 points. But Lando Norris is only 47 points behind, which isn't a lot. I mean, it is and it isn't. But when there's 4 races still to go, it's not a massive amount. I think there's still 120 points available in the Drivers' Championship. And obviously with the Constructors' Championship, again, that's really quite tight, because when McLaren there on 566, 29 points behind is now Ferrari with 537. Again, they've sort of come from nowhere, and Red Bull now in third with 512 points. This is still all to play for, and depending on who's got the car underneath them going into these final 4 races, I think it's fascinating. This is what I want to see from Formula 1, is the tightness of this Drivers' and Constructors' Championships. Really, really interesting stuff. And of course, if you've got any thoughts on what I've said tonight, please put them in the comments. I really do like reading what you've got to say. I like responding as and when I can. Yeah, sometimes it can take me a little while, but I really do enjoy it. So anything I've covered, please feel free to comment about that. But that's all I've got for you this evening. I really and truly do appreciate you continuing to be here with me. I can't stress that enough. Honestly, it genuinely does mean a lot to me. And of course, if you do like what I do, please consider pressing the like button. Also press the subscribe button, and also press the notification bell so you get those all important future warnings of my uploads. And as always, until the next time, take care.